Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Messages of Hope, where I am interviewing my staff one by one to just talk about how they came to live the awakened way and work with a medium. I'm going to apologize in advance for the light that keeps going in and out. We can't fix it. I'm on my bus, and maybe we'll just say it's spirit blinking on and off to say hello, everybody. So I'll just try to ignore that. Much more important is not ignoring my guest. Let's bring her in right now. Stephanie Pfennig, welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you, Suzanne, for having me.
You're welcome. You're the fourth of the four assistants that I've been interviewing because I've been taking everybody in order, and you're really pretty new to the team, but oh my gosh, coming in like gangbusters.
Oh, thank you. And everybody's made me feel so welcome. An amazing team.
Well, I feel that we should talk about the magical way that you came to work for me. It was really, I talk a lot about setups from spirit, and this was definitely a setup. Why don't you tell us how that came to be?
Oh, it was absolutely a setup. So, very interestingly, one of those isn't that interesting. um, in 2023, back in 2023, February, I was scheduled to go to your class, your personal mediumship plus class. And we had a couple family things going on, so I had to change that at the last minute, and that was in Savannah of 2023. So I was really disappointed, but I saw that it was also in Reno, Nevada in late July of 2023. So I hurried up and signed up, and it was an amazing class, just wonderful. If anybody hasn't taken it yet in person, please take it.
And we're going to be talking about why you went to that class. I want to, just so that people stick around and know how far you've come, I want to just give a little preview that you have two children across the veil, and that's why you wanted the class, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I could not wait for this class. So, but I did have to wait until July, but I really do think that it's divine that I did. So we went through the 2 days, and at the very end of the class, Suzanne, you had us do some kind of automatic writing, where the exercise where we tuned into our loved ones and wrote down what we were hearing, what we were sensing. So in that, I was talking to Katie, and
Across the veil.
Katie is my daughter across the veil, and she, I do, as many people do. I thought, oh, geez, am I making this up? But I just kept. You have those doubts, right? That
Oh,
you
everybody says that. Yeah.
you move forward. And so I kept writing. And at the time she said, Mom, you're going to love your new job.
Oh,
And uh, is that odd? So what I thought it was I've been in consulting for most of my career, which was 33 years in the business world. And I thought she meant because I was getting ready to switch clients. I was closing down one client and opening a new one. And I thought, oh, thanks, Katie. I really appreciate it. And maybe what you're saying is I need to honor this new client, and it's just one step closer toward what I want to do, which I was wanting to get out of the corporate world and help people, just help people who are grieving.
yeah.
And I wasn't sure how I was going to do that.
This is so important for so many people that watch this program. They know there's something more. They want to be more of service, and they're, how can I take my current work and move it into something more healing? So that's great.
Yes, exactly what I wanted to do. So I was a little disappointed, but then I thought, if Katie's saying this to me, and I need to honor that next client, and it's one more step toward doing what I want to do. So when kind of the exercise was over, I all of a sudden I had this, I can't describe it. It was a knowing. It was a deep in my gut, um, that was saying to me, you must go up and talk to Suzanne and see if she needs help on her team. And at first, if people have ever had, those things in their mind and they think that is so outside of what I would normally do. So I just started to ignore it. And And boy, the feeling came on so strongly, Suzanne. I literally wanted to throw up.
Oh my
And
gosh.
it made me so nervous. And the reason I was nervous is because um I don't like to bother people. I've done like trainings before, certainly not the type of training you do. It'd be more like corporate type training. And I know you're on a schedule, you got to get going, you need to close shop and move on. And there was a line, and I thought, oh my God, now there's a line, and I would be the last one. So interestingly, I was sitting in the back, and Ty was kind of, helping out, and he had the two dogs. And I noticed that you had the dachshunds, and I
Yeah.
said, oh,
Could I
yeah.
interrupt just a second? And just so people get the scene here, it was the end of 2 days of class. The line was people who wanted to come up and talk to me and get books signed. And Ty had brought the dogs so everybody could meet the dogs. So we were packing up. That's the setting. Yeah.
Yes, so packing up, and which made me even more nervous. I didn't want to delay you. But then I thought, okay, Steph, just calm down. Love the dog. I love dogs and I love dachshunds. We had a beloved dachshund who's now across the veil named Rudy. And I said, oh, I'll strike up a conversation with Ty about the dogs. That will calm me down a little bit while I'm waiting for the line to go down. And so I did. And so I said, Ty, we had a dachshund named Rudy. He was red hair, and we called him Rudy the Navy SEAL.
Did Ty tell you at the time that our beloved red-haired dachshund was named Rudy as well?
He did. And in fact, he's like, hey, hun, Steph has a dachshund named Rudy. And you were trying to talk through the remaining guests. And so he told me about the red-haired dachshund named Rudy, who was the sailing wiener dog, right?
Yeah. And why was your Rudy called the Navy SEAL?
So this is pretty interesting. We were at my brother's property. He had bought some property, and we would go there and have celebrations. And we were celebrating a family graduation, and he had all these cabins by a creek. And it was a beautiful sunny day, and all of a sudden it started storming and raining. And I've never seen a flash flood in my life before, except then. This creek went from a narrow creek to a swollen river. I mean, we were pulling children out quickly. It was so fast, Suzanne. They're so powerful. We were watching whole entire trees that were uprooted go down this swollen river. And oh, it was scary. So we got all the kids out, and then I thought, oh my God, Rudy, where is Rudy? So we're all starting to call for Rudy, and we hear this high-pitched yelp across the waterway, across the river. And it was him, and he was a little scared, and we're all kind of screaming, he can hear us. We're screaming, don't jump, but you could tell he wanted to cross and get to safety, back to us. So he jumped, and we were mortified. We were all thinking, oh my God,
Oh.
he yelled the whole way, and he made it. He made it. Mike waited a tiny bit out and grabbed him, but I don't know how he made it, but he made it. So we called him the Navy SEAL. So Ty talked about your Rudy, the sailing. And then, okay, so we were talking, kind of the line went down. And so that helped me tremendously kind of calm my nerves. And then finally I was talking to you, and I don't know if you remember, but I think I was very nervous. And so I started just talking very quickly about, would you need help on your team? And I thought it was such a long shot. And you kind of paused and thought about it. And I think you said something like, well, maybe. And you said, yeah, tell me more or something, or briefly.
Well, I have to tell you, Steph, that I have had offers like that, and I still get them from lovely kindred spirits who would love to be part of the team, and I appreciate every one of them. But when you came up to me, that same nudge you were feeling, I must have picked up on it too, because that thinking was really just a tuning into spirit, like, There's something going on here. Tell me more.
So I told you a little bit about my 33 years in corporate, um, about the children I've lost, and you said, I'd like to think about that. And okay, so I, said thank you and went my way, and I immediately zoomed straight upstairs in the hotel to get my resume and updated, and I
Gosh.
had dinner with my laptop. And I updated that and wrote you an email. And usually I'm very much more, on the professional side. And I say much more, but I mean, I would have kept it really locked and tightly locked and very professional. But I thought, you know what? I'm going to put a picture of Rudy in here because I think this is so ironic.
Not just ironic, it's a setup.
Yes, which I later understood to be a setup. And Mike, my husband, had made a blanket with my picture and Rudy's on it. And so I kind of sent that picture with me and Rudy, holding Rudy with the blanket behind us. And I thought, oh, she's going to think I am nuts.
No, no, no. If you had just sent the resume, it wouldn't have been the same. There's a reason we do everything, and the more I've gotten into this work, I hope everybody understands it's connections and connecting the dots and seeing. Oh, I got goosebumps even as I talk about it. Rudy was my child, my beloved dog, and he crossed the veil. Ty still tears up when his picture comes on our electronic frame. And
Oh,
it wasn't just that you had a dog named Rudy, it was the whole big picture, you know?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And it's funny because I feel the same way about our dogs. They are our furry babies. And in fact, just a little funny here, my Katie that crossed the veil would sometimes she'd be jealous of Rudy because every Friday night, Rudy and I would lay on the bed and talk about our week. And this dog had he had a laser focus on you. I've never seen a dog that could keep eye contact with you for so long. But
That is sweet.
so
But
they're our children.
well, and indeed that was part of it, but also the fact that you have two children across the veil. You came to the class, you're on the path, you get it. So let's now go back, and why don't you tell me about Katie and Nick and your path that brought you to the Awakened Way?
Yeah, I'd love to. So back in 2016, Katie was a senior at a school in Lexington, Kentucky. It's right by UK. It's a small liberal arts school called Transylvania. And believe it or not, I know it's interesting, but it's been around since the 1700s. So really rich history. She was getting ready to graduate. She had a job in Chicago, believe it or not, doing some social media. And she has a twin, and her birthday was about 5 days before this, and this was a Saturday. She called me, and we were going to go celebrate that night. So she called me and she said, "Hey, Mom, I just wanted you to know I stopped at Raven's Run for a hike, and I'll be up after that." So this was a nature sanctuary in Lexington that she frequently hiked. And the night before, it was raining, raining, raining. And talk about like mother's intuition or anybody's intuition. The night before, I could not sleep. Every hour I woke up and I heard the rain, and I thought, my God, when is it going to stop raining? And this is not me, because I could sleep through a freight train. I mean, my husband is jealous of how easily I can fall asleep and stay asleep.
I would be.
So so it had rained a lot. I kept waking up thinking about that. So I told Katie, hey, no problem, just come on up after you're finished. Well, I was doing my thing, getting, ready. So about 5 hours later, Katie was to meet her best friend, Katie, at a coffee shop. And about 5 hours later, around 2 o'clock, I got a call from her boyfriend. And he said, he didn't know for sure at the time, but he said, I need to tell you there's been a hiker at Ravens Run that fell. We're not sure who it was. But my friend Tommy's picking me up and we're going to go down there. And so in that, I knew Suzanne, I just knew. And so in the ensuing like 30 minutes to get all this figured out was just, pure hell.
Yeah.
And I knew when I called, and the poor kid that was probably 17 or 18 that answered the phone at the sanctuary, was basically told not to give out any information. And so when I told him who I was and what my daughter's name was, he just went silent.
Oh gosh.
And so, I knew anyway. And then at about the same time, my brother, who's in the FBI, and my husband called him to said, please call the authorities down there, see what's going on. At the very same time, he got the call from my brother. I got the call from Katie's boyfriend. And yeah, it was just horrible. So, that was in 2016, 5 days after her birthday. But the interesting thing, Suzanne, and I don't know if we've directly talked about this or I've heard a little bit about this, is 5 days earlier on Katie's birthday, we were going to have a girls' lunch to celebrate with my other daughter and her twin. And schedules got messed up. We couldn't make it. She made the trip from Lexington, Kentucky, all the way, it's an hour and 15 minutes up. She went to every one of us, and we're scattered throughout the city at our jobs. And she went to every one of us and personally gave us a hug. So, I just wonder if somewhere in her soul, she knew to do that. And so, yeah, that of course, put me on the path. And after that, it was kind of like, I think anybody who's lost someone can relate. The next day you wake up and just in that little fog, that before you're completely awake, you think, oh, thank God I woke up from that nightmare, or please tell me it's a dream. Remember
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
And then you realize it's not, and just the panic and the fear hits.
It's awful.
Yeah. So that is what happened with Katie, and her college was fabulous. I mean, they handheld us through everything. They gave us her diploma posthumously down at the graduation. So we got to receive that for her. And
I hope that she was able to get some signs through to you that you recognize them.
Oh, Suzanne. Can I tell you about one sign that was
you better tell us about it, because that's what keeps us going. That's what it's all about.
One sign that was physical. I've never observed this in my entire life. And don't think I have since, but it was about 3 months after. And so Mike and I were out shopping, and I went into a dressing room, and it was a store. There's two things, actually. It was a store where there was a book, almost like a wedding, like a book that you sign that you've been there. So people sign it that have been there, and they write down heartfelt notes, or who they want to pray for, or who, it's beautiful. So I went in and I tried on something, and I just kind of started looking in the book. And there was an entry, and we were about 20 minutes away from where we, live. And there was an entry about my Katie, and about, Katie, I'm missing you so much. I'm thinking about you, and it was from somebody she knew. And I thought, oh, that's just so beautiful that I got to see that.
Wow.
So right after that, so it's interesting, how we talk about you talk about how we see things and how we step back from our ego and look at everything, not from our ego and our sense of upset and sadness, but we stepped back. So for whatever reason, it was beautiful. Mike and I were sitting on a bench in the shopping area, and we were able to, it was one of the first times we were able to look at some of what Katie did and just laugh. She was so funny, and we got to talk and laugh. So it was one of those wonderful times where you can actually smile
Yeah.
and be okay with that. And it was just a transcendent, what I would say, experience. It was beautiful. And it, to me, it's what you talk about is stepping back and looking at everything from that soul perspective and being able to and bring more joy. And so then we went, here's my sign, my big sign. So then we went and decided to just go to one of the restaurants there, and it was a wings place. And so the waitress brought our waters, and then we ordered a beer, and she brought back celery. And I guarantee we had not even had a drink. But when she brought back the celery and she turned around to walk away, Mike and I were just kind of looking down and laughing about Katie and looking down at the table. When we did this, and I've never seen this, it was amazing. The plate, and it's Katie, because Katie is funny as could be. The plate of celery moved from one end of the table long ways to the other.
No.
And it's just so Katie, it's so bizarre and out there that all we could do was laugh.
You
I
both
mean,
saw it. You
we
both
both saw it. I jumped up. I said, Mike, are you playing a game? Do you have a string or something? Is there condensation on the table? Is the table tilting? And none of that. The table was completely dry.
uh,
We to this day, and the beautiful thing about that was such a gift because it made us laugh and smile again.
and it happened because you were laughing and smiling earlier. It's like a sign that yes, you grieve, and I get it from Katie's point of view, and you need to grieve, but look, I love how you were laughing and smiling about me, and you saw my message. It's all about the timing, isn't it?
Oh,
Yeah.
it was amazing. It was so needed. And so Mike and I, for months, could not look at each other. We just had that knowing look and just would laugh. And it was just such a gift.
Oh, now
Such,
if I were you, I would have picture of celery on the wall or something that my memory, my sign wall, or I would have a ceramic piece of celery somewhere in a place of honor, to just memorialize what she pulled off there. It really shows us how unreal this world is.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes. I love that idea too, Suzanne, because I can't look at a plate of celery the same way ever again.
Yes.
It makes you laugh, and I'm just so grateful for that. It was so helpful.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you felt her, you got her message in my class.
Mhm.
How about other times when you've sensed her, or
Yeah.
when you know that she's around?
Yeah. There was another kind of physical thing, although I didn't see the physicality piece of it in action. Um, I would say about 9 months after that, I was missing this picture of her that I absolutely love. It was her in this just poofy black and white polka dotted party dress, and she had these beautiful cherry red high heels on, and she's kind of sitting there putting her foot up and laughing. And I was so distraught because I couldn't find it. We looked everywhere. We part the heating and the duct to see if it fell down in there. We looked everywhere. And one night we were talking about, we were kind of lamenting the fact that we couldn't find it. The next morning, and I'm not kidding, nobody else came in my house. The next morning, it's sitting on the table, kitchen table, propped up against the vase of flowers.
No.
So that was beautiful. I mean,
See, the human side wants to figure out how that happened, but that's called an apport, APPORT. And it's really when spirit pulls out all the stops and says, these people need to know we are here, and that your world is not as solid as it seems to you.
Yes, yes, that it's, ah,
Wow.
whenever I doubt, I think of those things. And, and then another was, um, and I'm sure many people have had this, and many people also look for this, is what I call visitation, a dream visitation. Let's say this was in the first year, maybe 6 months afterward. Um, it's almost like, if you remember way back in the day on Oprah and the couch jumping incident when Tom Cruise was so excited about Nicole Kidman, he was up jumping up and down on the couch, and just, they talked about that for years because it was just so much fun. So I had this dream and I got to feel her and hug her,
Yeah.
and it was beautiful. And literally in the middle of the night, I got up and started jumping on the bed, and I was like, what are you doing? And I was just cheering, and it was just a beautiful sign, and a gift. Wow, it was a true gift,
I'll say. How is her twin? It's Maddie, right, Madeline?
Yeah, she's on a different journey, and she understands that she still kind of needs to start down this path. But she's on a different journey, and of course, she misses her so much. And so, as parents too, sometimes we are on different journeys than our children, and sometimes it feels like it can feel isolating. um but as long as you try to talk about it, and just it recognize, I think for so long, Suzanne, i I kept thinking that, come on, we need to get you further down the path, but we don't. We're each, she does, I do, her daughter, her sister Samantha does. It's we're each on our own path, and so I did really kind of need to learn over time to respect the individual journeys.
That's, yeah, it's very important and beautifully said. Yeah.
Yeah.
So now how about let's talk about Nick.
Okay. So that was 2016. So if we fast forward a few years to 2019, in that whole time, I mean, I'm on a search, I'm listening to probably hundreds, at this point, thousands of near-death experience podcasts and
Yeah.
books and such. And I started to learn about you and read a lot of your books. And in that 3 years. So we get to June, I'm sorry. Yeah. August of 2019. So my stepson, Nick, my son, Nicholas, he was in the Army, and he did a tour in Afghanistan. He's, just like a lot of people do in wartime, they see a lot of atrocities that really deeply impact them. Interestingly, he fell. I don't know if I said that before, but as did Katie. Not he fell in Afghanistan and came back, but Katie fell during her hike, and that's how she passed. With Nick, the reason I bring up his fall in Afghanistan is because he had a lower back injury, and between the lower back injury that it kind of caused a little bit of, I'm not sure what it's called, but the foot that isn't completely able to,
Yeah. Drop foot.
thank you. Drop foot. So he had that, and between that, when he came back, and not being able to adjust well, kind of back into a day-to-day world, he was taking some drugs, and in order to kind of self-soothe. So he went through that a little bit, and the great news was he started to overcome that addiction. He got into some really cool programs and groups with other people. He went to the University of Texas, El Paso. He graduated with honors in June of 2019. And we went down to celebrate, and we left in June, and he was doing fabulous. He was doing wonderful. And so in 2000, or in 2 months later, I should say, in August, we were actually in Las Vegas. Sam took some friends to Las Vegas to celebrate her wedding before the wedding. And so her friends and several of the moms went out, and I got a text. I got a Facebook message, actually. My daughter Madeline did, Katie's twin, and said, hey, I need to contact Nick's father as soon as possible. And so once we did, and we got in touch with her, she let us know that he had passed. He was in El Paso, and he walked over to the bridge to Juarez, where oxycodone, I think, is over the counter. Well, his back was hurting him. He may have also been, dealing with some trauma. He got that over the counter, and it turned out it was pure fentanyl. So just so many people are dealing with this fentanyl poisoning.
Boy, are they? Yeah.
Oh, it's just so rampant. And we left. It's just such a shock when you leave and everything's just going so well. And so that was kind of, it wasn't kind of a shock. It was quite a shock.
Oh, and the feeling of, I mean, not again. I mean, here's your husband Mike supporting you, and now the tables turn, but you've been down this road. What a blow.
It was a huge blow. And it was probably 2 months, 3 months before Sam's wedding. And and so we went down and did all the things that we needed to do to bring Nick home. And we had his celebration of life. And then, of course, a couple of months later, we had the wedding. But it was, it was hard. And I just feel for our surviving kids, that, and Mike's other son, Joe, and my two daughters.
What's amazing is I did a reading for you, and because I remember saying, you can't work on the team without me doing a reading for you, right? And I got to meet Nick, right? I forget almost everything in my readings, but I suddenly remember my little pinky hurting. Wasn't that your reading?
Yes.
Yeah. All of a sudden it was throbbing. And I've come to know in a reading that when I get physical symptoms, they're not mine in a reading, they're the spirits. And Nick I said he had some kind of injury in his little finger. And you sent me a picture later.
Yes.
Yeah. From his being in the army.
From battle. Yeah.
He was a battle hardened infantryman, right?
Yeah. He was a gunner, and there is a picture of him. It was right after a battle, and he's just kind of sitting there, and he never smoked, but he's actually smoking a cigarette. His hand was blown up to there, and that pinky looked a mess.
Yeah. I mean, it gives me goosebumps. And I'm in my RV now. That's why they're crazy lighting everybody. But just yesterday, Stephanie, I was walking around an army base that's right across the highway, just because it's a safe from traffic place to walk. And there was a sign there about not one more loss, meaning let's take care of our soldiers because they come back with trauma. And I just now see that it really snagged my attention. And I didn't realize why at the time, but now I do. It's just that everybody, not soldiers, everybody, we need to take care of each other and not turn to the self-destructive self-soothing like we talked about in the last webinar, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's just, it's so rampant. And so we absolutely have a heart for our men and women, our veterans who deal with that. So, yeah.
So have you gotten signs from Nick?
So for Nick, he comes into my dreams and his dad's dreams.
Oh, nice.
Frequently. So it's really very, very cool what we see. And Mike's Mike's sign, and he gets them all the time, are these dimes. Dimes are everywhere.
It's a little unusual. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very cool. Very
And
cool.
just so everybody understands how that works, sometimes they could be an app port because they show up in places where they weren't just minutes earlier. But other times, our loved ones in spirit know there's a dime there. And I can see Nick just snagging Mike's attention, saying, "Look down, Dad." And he doesn't realize he's guided, but looks down and there it is. He collect them? Does he save them?
Oh yeah, yeah. Yes, we have a jar of the dimes, and it's getting up there. So yeah, it's very cool.
You'll probably have a reading with another medium someday, and they'll say, your son's showing me this collection of dimes. Yeah. Good. Uh, so you came on the team right at a time when we knew that my book, The Awakened Way, was coming out, and I saw the perfect opportunity because we didn't have the time to help get the word out about it. And your initial job was to promote this book, The Awakened Way. But of course, you can't do that unless you know what The Awakened Way is all about. Can you tell me how you'd already been living The Awakened Way, and then what, from working with the book and working with this team, has expanded even more for you?
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely. So I found you probably, just from searching, and I just know that I was searching for hope. That the literal keyword hope. And so your work came up, and I knew a lot about your work. I've always been a seeker, number one. I was raised Catholic, but I was always all over the map, going to different churches, different um, classes. And I have a friend that's a medium and that teaches Reiki. And so I'm not a stranger to going to mediums and that kind of thing. So I'm always very open to that. And I found your work, and I went to the one class. I had taken other online classes with you, and when I came in to do the publicity for the Awakened Way, I think what really struck me, and one of the first things you had me do, of course, was, read the draft. And it was so helpful. And what struck me about it is the tools and techniques. And so when you gave me that draft to read, boy, I really tried to absorb as much as I could about it. And honestly, as you mentioned, coming onto the team, I was a little nervous because Bev and Lynette have really been deep down the path. Valerie as well.
For years, yeah.
Yeah, for years. And so, sometimes I still get a little nervous because I do feel like they're, from a time perspective, they're sort of deeper in, I would say, than I am. So sometimes I feel intimidated, but that's my ego, right?
Right, that's it.
It's just that I am where I am. And so I started to take up the practices in the book, especially the Bless Me method.
Mm.
And this is fascinating because you asked me, the Awakened Way, how are you starting to understand it, and how is it helping you? The Bless Me method is fascinating. It really struck me in personal mediumship. And then, after I read it in the book, and I started really to adopt it. And boy, Suzanne, that shift that you teach there has really, I feel, taken me to another level. And kind of really to illustrate that, a good friend of mine, Christy, she passed late last year.
Remember?
And well, not unexpectedly, but she went through a battle with colon cancer, and it was about 6 months. And in the end, um, she was in hospice, and I think she had either just passed or just before she passed. I was using the Bless Me method, and
To connect with her, I just want to,
yes,
there's some people
yeah,
that don't know what the Bless Me method is. It's an acronym for 7 steps to connect with beings across the veil and higher consciousness. A very easy flowing process to get you from waking consciousness to connected in. So
yeah.
you're saying about connecting with her.
And boy, it was a game changer for me. So I started using that, and then when Christy passed, I really started using it frequently. And you know how you talk about, okay, give me the sign. What is it? You engage and you ask for a sign. And I just saw these there's two things that happen in different Bless Me method sessions, meditations. The first was I just saw these purple blobs, like purple blobs. What in the world? And I thought, okay, Christy, I don't know about this, but I'm gonna take it. You always tell people, whatever you're shown,
You're
take
willing
it.
to play.
Be willing to play. So that same night, I was on Facebook, and Christy was a very talented painter. I was on Facebook, and her brother-in-law and her sister are helping with her affairs and such in her house. And he took a picture of a bunch of her paintings. And one was this beautiful sort of modern painting of these purple blobs in all shapes and colors.
Yes.
I go running to Mike and I go, look, remember the purple blobs? They're right there in a painting.
Oh, goosebumps.
So I said, I texted Jeff and I said, please, may I have the first shot at the purple blob painting? And so
I hope you got it.
I did. I got the purple blob painting. And then in another meditation where I use the Bless Me practice, um, she and her sister, my friend, were very close, very, very tight. And I was thinking about both of them and kind of engaging with Christy as best I could. And I kind of felt like I felt Beth too, even though Beth is here on this side. And I asked for a sign, and I saw Peeps, the marshmallows, the Easter time marshmallows.
Okay.
I thought, oh God, please don't make me say Peeps to Beth. I don't, she's going to think I'm nuts, but Beth's always willing to play too. So I said, well, right before I talked to Beth, I was in a work meeting, and we were working on some supply chain stuff, software. And so we were looking at the various inventory that was coming into the warehouse and that was available for the stores. Well, one buyer got on the phone, and this was right after I got my Peeps sign. He came into the phone just so upset because he did not have his jumbo marshmallows to sell to his stores. Kept talking about, where are my jumbo marshmallows? I need my jumbo marshmallows. This was right after my meditation. I thought, okay, Peeps. So then I called Beth, and she goes, oh my God, Christy and I were so into Peeps when we were little. And it just continued our whole entire lives. So we had this thing with Peeps, and we hid them from each other, and we dressed them up, and we microwaved them and exploded them.
Oh, so you asked Christy, tell me something, a sign that I can ask Beth about. That she
Yes.
can validate, and she showed you Peeps, and you got that doing the Bless Me method. Wow.
Doing Bless Me. Yes.
Wow. Wow. And it was this big thing. See, people, first we get these visits and we doubt them. We think it's our imagination, but just asking for that evidence, that's the game changer, isn't it?
Oh,
You can't deny that.
it's huge. It is so huge. And I still get doubts and such, I think, as everybody does. But if you continue, like you were saying, and you say in your book, if you continue to play and engage, that E of bless me, one of them is engage. It's the sky's the limit. There is no limit.
Yeah. And think how happy it makes your loved ones across the veil that, okay, now I can show them it's not their imagination and they want to play with us. That's the best part.
Yes. Oh, just the rejoicing and yeah.
And the rejoicing is what I'd like to focus on, because you are just such a pleasant, beautiful soul. People can feel it right now, I know. And in fact, when the book came out, you tasked us all to take pictures the first time we held the book. And so everybody on the staff, you put it into a collage, but yours went above and beyond. You're jumping into the air with it. You caught this leaping, jumping for joy photo. And to me, that's an example of what you bring to this team. You've been through just tremendous tragedy, talked about it today so beautifully, and I'm sorry to take you down that road, but it's part of your story, right? It's who you are and what brought you here. And yet you just went through it again with your mother-in-law passing, these normal transitions of life. We can't escape them.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
No.
So, one thing that we can do is honor our loved ones who have passed and serve others in their honor. And you and Mike have done that in the most beautiful way. I'd love if you tell everybody about Care Farm.
Sure. Yeah. So right after our loss with Nick, when Nick transitioned, we had a friend of mine and I who, her name is Krista, and we really bonded over the death of our daughters, because her daughter passed also around the same time, within months of mine. And so we bonded and we talked a lot about starting something where people could come together and get out in nature, get away from technology, and find like-minded souls who really could understand what people were going through. Sometimes you feel crazy as a grieving person because the funeral's over, all this stuff's over, everybody gets back to their life, and you feel like you're losing your mind and nobody understands. So the goal of Care Farm is to, the mission is provide a healing space in nature for those experiencing loss. And after Nick passed, okay, let's do this. We happen to have some property that we purchased 15 years back, and we thought, let's repurpose the property for Care Farm, to bring people together to talk about their grief over a retreat weekend where they do glamping. So if you're more of, I don't tent, we have these posh tents set up and it feels like you're at a hotel. And
Yeah, what is the website for that so people can see these? Because at first I thought tent, and it's not like a tent. It is.
Yeah, it sounds weird, but it's carefarm.org with a K, K-A-R-E, carefarm.org. And yeah, go ahead.
Well, it's free for the couples and the people who are grieving, right?
Yes, it's absolutely free of charge. Our goal is to have no barriers for anyone to partake and come to a place where they feel compassion, understanding, they feel heard and understood, the pain and some of the crazy stuff that can go through your head, and just come together with like-minded people and be able to talk about it. And so we have a program where, we do certain exercises and activities, and we provide, tools and techniques for working with their grief, after they're gone. And we give a lot of free time because, grief, it can be exhausting. And sometimes a lot of people go in their tents and sleep, because they're exhausted. Or they can go hike and paddle boat and fish. And so we have one, in fact, tonight, our guests are coming, and we have another one. We have one this weekend. So.
And how many people can you take in one weekend?
Typically, we can take anywhere from 12. 12 is a good number. Maybe 14 is kind of the max. We like to keep it small and intimate, but we're adding cabins. So in addition to the tents, we're adding some cabins over the summer so that we can serve more people in one weekend. So yeah.
And who does the cooking? See, my rational mind wants, that's a lot of work and money.
So interestingly, out in the country, and it's about it's in Kentucky, and we have a local general store that actually does catering for weddings and all this stuff. So we rely on them for our food, and honestly, we have a lot of people who do a volunteer thing where they get their group together and they make the lunch and bring it and serve people.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so it's really cool.
And the
Really,
feedback from the people who attend?
they're very thrilled that they're heard. They're heard and understood. And we have to remember that a lot of people are 8, 9, 10 years in and still haven't been able to talk about it and express it and let it out.
Mm.
And in fact, we have one guest today who is coming. He came 3 weeks ago, and he has been having trouble getting out of his house for 2 years. And he was so thrilled with his experience. He said, I'm putting on this on my calendar. I want to come out and continue talking about this and getting it out.
Oh
So,
my, wow. So
yeah.
I'm sure you must have a donate button on the website, right?
Yes, we do. Thank
Okay.
you.
'Cause clearly it's all from donations. I know you have fundraisers,
Yes.
and but that donate button, if anybody feels inclined, follow your heart, please, and check out carefarm.org, right?
Yeah,
With
we
a K.
really
Okay,
carefarmwithak.org. And yes, we love to keep it at no cost so everybody can participate.
that's beautiful. All right. So
No.
so just let's, as we bring this hour to an end, why don't you just talk about um, that? Really, you can't escape the trials of life, and how you're dealing with that now.
Yeah, you can't. And for my mother-in-law, it was what people would consider the natural order of things, right? She lived a beautiful 92 years.
Yep.
And she made it to her 92nd birthday, and we share birthdays. So we bought balloons and flowers, and they say you can hear. And I just know she could. So that was it's still hard, right? When you don't have a mother figure. My mother is still here, thankfully, but the mother figure that she was for so many years, that's still hard to us as human beings. It really is. So we still feel that pain, and that's part of the journey. But what I have tried to do is just like you talk about, is to find the joy, you know, find find the joy. And I have to say that early on in my grief journey, in the first 2 or 3 years, there were many times I was pretty angry, and I didn't want to be around people who said, oh, I've been there, and I'm okay now, and I'm good, and yay, let's find the positivity and joy. It was hard to be around those people, and I think that was okay for that period in my journey. But now I have seen the benefit and the beauty of stepping outside yourself and looking and finding, the joy, and looking at the joy that, for example, Katie's short life, she was 22, that her life brought to so many people, and how joyful she was. And the same with Nick, he was so funny.
Mm.
And to be able to look at that and see that this earthly life isn't all that there is. There's more, and our loved ones are here with us, and they're here to connect with. and and we can do that. So I just, for those who are still kind of in that spot of really reeling from the pain and hurting, there is hope, and you can find it. And boy, and I know I don't want to sound like a walking salesman for the book, but I just have to be, I am so excited about the tools and techniques in there, over 25, and they're just so, they can be so simple as the 3 steps sip of the divine. And um, it's it's just a beautiful thing to have. And I am so grateful, for that. And I can't wait for everybody to get hold of it.
We we are just so grateful to have you on the team. You're doing so much more than publicity now. Bev, you and Bev are becoming, twins there yourselves, and
Yes.
so that you can spell each other, help each other out. And the sky's the limit as to how we'll all be able to work together. So I'm just grateful that Rudy, the Navy SEAL, and our Rudy brought us together, and perhaps Susan and Katie and Nick across the veil said, we'll get them together. We'll get them working.
That's awesome.
Well, everybody, you can see how blessed I am to have this team of beautiful souls working with me. And Stephanie, thank you for sharing your beautiful light with us today.
Thank you so much.
An honor. All right, everybody. I hope this has helped you to shine your light even brighter. Go out and shine it on the world, okay? We love you all. See you here next week.